I'm Pete Boulay, and I'm honored to be representing this outstanding nonprofit community band, the Southwest Washington Wind Symphony. Thank you. How many of you were able to enjoy the jazz trio in the lobby as you came in today? Yeah? Good. Well, that was the Union High School Jazz Combo, and it was Noah Hadfield on bass, Rashad Kabir on drums, and Chase Williams on trumpet, and their director is Mark Clausen. How about a hand for those students in that group? Thank you. Nice job, guys. This is the beginning of our 13th season, and in today's program, we're celebrating the great composers of American band music. To us, they are the legends of American band. The music these composers wrote is uniquely American sounding. It should have a familiar sound, a comfortable sound. Have you ever thought about what sounds are unique to America? How about the exciting sounds of a high school band playing at a football game? Or bands playing in 4th of July parades? How about the uniquely American sounds of jazz, blues, country, folk, and the uniquely American sounds of church hymns as sung by Southern Baptist choirs? The music of American composers sounds American simply because the composers grew up in America, surrounded by our unique culture, our sounds, and our music. Now, what makes these particular composers legends, other than their superpowers to write beautiful music? I would bet and hope that there isn't a high school, college, or military band in America who hasn't played the music of at least one of these composers. These composers are legends in our world, the world of American band music. Now, before I hand over the microphone, I need to remind everybody to please silence your phones. Please enter and exit only between musical numbers. All of our programs are recorded for rebroadcast on Channel 28, so you are a part of the performance. And we don't want you to become the star by taking a phone call. Now I'd like to introduce our Swiss board Vice President and trumpet player, Jim O'Banion. How about a hand for Jim?
Good afternoon, and thank you, Pete. Our first selection this afternoon is Rocky Point Holiday. Imagine taking a summer holiday in Rhode Island and visiting the Rocky Point Amusement Park, established by Captain William Winslow in 1847. Jumping on one ride after another and eating food in the Shore Dinner Hall, which, by the way, seated 4,000 patrons at a time. It was famous for its clam cakes, its steamers, lobster, and of course, New England clam chowder. It is safe to say that composers seek inspiration from numerous sources. For Ron Nelson, the park was that inspiration in 1986, and thus the composition entitled Rocky Point Holiday. Please welcome our creative musical conductor, Patrick Murphy, Director of Bands at the University of Portland, as he leads our creative effort for your Sunday afternoon enjoyment. Thank you. Patrick? Our next selection is the wind ensemble arrangement of Chester, composed by William Schumann. Nobody could describe the history of Chester better than Schumann himself. The tune on which Chester is based was born in 1778 during the American Revolution. It was so popular that it was sung throughout the colonies from Vermont to South Carolina. It eventually became the song of the American Revolution, sung around the campfires of the Continental Army and played by fifers on the march. The music and the words, created by the colonial-era New England composer William Billings, perfectly express the burning desire for freedom, the deep desire that sustained the colonists through the difficult years of the Revolution. Please enjoy. Our third selection is Incantation and Dance, written in 1963 by John Barnes Chance. It is his very first of the many he composed. This composition has become one of his most popular works. It was written while serving the North Carolina public schools under a grant given by the Ford Foundation's Young Composers Project. It consists of two contrasting sections. The first, the incantation, is a short, mournful melody full of mystery, which gradually builds to a ferocious conclusion. The second, the dance, begins quietly, moving to complex rhythmic patterns in the percussion and culminating in a frenzied dance. As referenced in your program notes, Chance, having the skill and the background as a percussionist, became an innovative composer who was amongst the first to write explicitly for percussion and motivating other composers to do the same. Enjoy Incantation and Dance.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to have you all here on this blustery, rainy, nasty, yucky day. So thanks for coming inside for a lot of fast music until the next piece. But again, thank you very much for coming this afternoon. When I was putting this program together, I was trying to figure out maybe what some iconic American pieces and composers were. trying to focus on composers who did, in fact, compose primarily for band. So I kind of threw Aaron Copland out, because while he did write a couple of pieces, that's not his emphasis. And so the next composer was one that I knew had to be on the program. That's David Maslanka. We've done David Maslanka with this group before. Larry Gukin 2 years ago did St. Francis with this ensemble, and last year we did Maslanka's Symphony No. 4. And so when I was putting the program together in August, all of a sudden, David Maslanka passed away. And so it became a case of figuring out, well, not only what piece of his to do, but what piece to perform as a tribute to him. Because a lot of the people on the stage have played for him, worked with him, and certainly have played his music. So what would be a fitting piece of the, well, I don't know how many there are, 100-some pieces that he wrote. And so I was thinking, and I kind of decided upon the Requiem, which seems like an obvious choice. Requiem is typically a mass for the dead, so it seems like the obvious choice to honor somebody who passed away. It's not my usual way. Usually I pick something fast and fun for somebody who's passed away, something like Sam Hazel's Ride or Rush or something that gets you moving. But having worked with David, I think the word that comes to mind for him is earnest. Not always the most complicated music in the world, but very often the most beautifully simple music in the world. And much of this piece, I think, reflects him and his inner qualities. He wrote this piece as a remembrance of dead during the Holocaust. But he talks about how death isn't necessarily an ending, but more a beginning of some sort. And so I'm kind of looking at it in that particular frame of mind. But like most of his music, there's parts in this that will make your eyes tear up, and other parts that will just make you angry and will hit you right in the heart. And I think there's sections in this particular piece that really exemplify the very best of how David wrote music, but also how he lived his life, quietly and subtly, but then being able to, on paper and through this medium, just make the most amazing, heartfelt contribution to society and the world. So, we hope you enjoy this. This is David Maslanka's Requiem. And I should say that when I found out that he had passed away, my first thought was to contact my mentor, Greg Hansen, director of bands formerly at University of Arizona, who I studied with, because he and David were, to say close friends would be an understatement, almost like soulmates in a way. And I asked Greg if he would come up to conduct, and he said without hesitation, absolutely. And unfortunately, he's been suffering from bronchitis since July, and his doctor wouldn't let him travel, which we just found out about Friday, but that's okay. So unfortunately, he couldn't make the trip, which means they're stuck with me conducting this instead. Luckily, I can conduct slow also once in a while. So dedicated in part to, certainly to the memory of David Maslanka, but also to my good friend Greg Hansen, thinking about him also and what he's been going through these last couple of months. Anyway, thank you very much. All right, and then for something completely different. As I was going through, trying to figure out what pieces to select, I thought, I really need somebody modern, somebody who I think maybe it's kind of the sound of the future for the American Wind Band. And there's some names out there that we all know, people like Frank Ticheli, John Mackey, Brian Balmages. There's a lot of names out there. So I kind of wanted to go with an underdog. So I did that. I want to also accentuate our saxophone section because they're really good. There, yeah. Always being good with the saxophone section. So Will Pitts, as you can read in your program notes, is a little different than everybody else. He's a music educator in terms of the other composers, and he's the brass caption arranger for a drum corps. So it's a very, very different sound. It's got more of that percussive sound to it, a lot of rhythmic drive and energy. But I like it because unlike some modern composers, he actually still believes in melody. Right? I mean, not all the time, let's not go crazy. But once in a while, he likes to include a melody in there, which I appreciate because so much of it now is, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but a lot of noise, right? And so when it's not just noise, a little noise isn't a bad thing, but if it's not just that, I think it's a lot more interesting. So I hope you enjoy this as kind of a nod towards the future of the American Wind Band. This is Will Pitts' Turbo Scramjet.
So as a musician, I can't describe the feeling of sitting in this group and the joy that making music for you brings to us, and to me as well. So we hope that the joy from us has transferred to you, because it's been really a marvelous time of making music for you this afternoon. Our next to the last composition was written by Alfred Reed in 1980. The inspiration was taken from the poem, The Hounds of Spring, a recreation in modern English verse of an ancient Greek tragedy. It paints a magical picture of young love in the springtime. Please listen as Reed makes the difficult, creative attempt to capture the elements of the poem with its exuberant youthfulness and the sweetness of tender love. Please enjoy. Thank you.
Well, what'd you think? Is that a good program? American music by American composers. Not bad. Hey, it's great to see kids in the audience. Raise your hand if you are, well, there's a lot of people that feel like they're kids, but they're over 20. If you're under 20, raise your hand. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And we'd like you to bring some of your friends back next time as well. We had, as I said earlier, this is our 13th year. 13 years ago, there was a young lady in the audience watching this band, and today she's in the band. Her name is Chelsea Blackburn. Chelsea, would you stand up, please? Thanks for being a good sport. I didn't warn her about that. But I just thought that was so cool that we've kind of turned a full circle there. And we would not be in our 13th year if it weren't for your support, the audience, the incredible musicianship, and our volunteers. I was just doing some rough and dirty, what I call saxophone math, since I'm a saxophone player. And I figured we put in collectively, we put over 1,000 hours in each program. with rehearsal and practice time. And for the musicians, none of us are paid. It's all about the pursuit of excellence and wanting to create something beautiful. I can't think of another activity where you can get 55 people together and do that. I just think it's spectacular, and thank you so much for supporting that in our community. But we do have bills, like every organization. We have to rent the building. We have insurance. We have to purchase music. We have program printing, website maintenance fees. That's your part. And if you can help us out, we would be so appreciative. And we would like to be around for 50 years if we could. But it's just all dependent on your support. And if you're able to support us today, you can make a tax-deductible donation on your way out. Give it to one of the ushers. If you cannot make a contribution today, then bring some of your friends back and help us grow our audience for next time. That would be awesome, especially if you're a student. A couple more quick thank yous. Thanks to Colleen and Rich Carr. They're in the audience tonight, and they're our founders, and I just wanted to thank them again. Thanks to Beacock Music. Yeah. Beacock Music, Music World, Wager Audio, Evergreen Public Schools and Video Service, Thomas Friedman, and again to our outstanding musicians and our director, Patrick Murphy. And now, one more really famous piece by an American legend composer, and nobody can question that this is an American legend composer. John Philip Sousa's The Stars and Stripes Forever. See you at the next concert.